William Burroughs, who defined the 1960s beat generation, died in Lawrence, Kansas on Saturday. He was 83 years old. He was well known for his bold experimentation with drugs and sex and an eccentric sense of style. He influenced writers and rock stars, including Lou Reed and Patti Smith and author David Foster Wallace. He was born and raised in St. Louis. He earned a baccalaureate degree from Harvard in 1936. In the mid-1940s, he moved to New York City's Greenwich Village. There he met Allen Ginsberg and Jack Kerouac and developed a heroin addiction. In 1959, his shocking yet acclaimed novel Naked Lunch launched him out of his Beat Generation network and into the literary mainstream. Naked Lunch was adopted by filmmaker David Cronenberg in 1991. The book remains the benchmark of his writing career. Among his other works include Junkie, Nova Express, and Inner Zone. Joining me now for a conversation and appreciation of the man is Morgan Entrekin. He is the publisher of Grove Press. Also by phone later from Long Island, artist and director Robert Wilson. He collaborated in 1989 with Burroughs on the comic opera, The Black Rider. Welcome. Tell me about Burroughs.
Well, I think William Burroughs is an American original in the same way that you look at even Mark Twain or Walt Whitman, although Burroughs is obviously sort of from a different era. I think there's a great line that sort of off-quoted about Ezra Pound saying that artists are the antennae of society, and I think Burroughs certainly was that. Yeah. He was creating in his fiction a kind of rendering of the dark, psychotic heart of what he saw as America in the 50s, and he's only become more relevant as America has evolved in the last 30 years.
Tell me what you mean.
Well, there's a great line from Terry Southern, who was a great pal of Burroughs, who Terry wrote Dr. Strangelove and Easy Rider and The Magic Christian. And Terry said when he reviewed Naked Lunch when it came out, he says, Naked Lunch is an absolutely devastating ridicule of all that is false, primitive, and vicious in current American life. The abuses of power, hero worship, aimless violence, materialistic obsession, intolerance, and every form of hypocrisy. Sounds like it'd be about America today, but that's what Burroughs is.
But it wasn't in your basic narrative form. It was more
No. I mean, he also was extremely innovative in terms of the technique and craft that he was using. I think that it came out of, the work that some of the modernist poets, Joyce, Celine, etc., and some of the artists, Rauschenberg and Jasper Johns, a sort of collage effect where he defied the idea of life being able to be captured in a conventional sort of coherent narrative.
He moved back to Kansas, in the 80s at some point?
Yeah, in the early 80s.
Why did he go back?
I think that he was from the Midwest. He was from St. Louis, and Lawrence, Kansas is an interesting community.
University
town, yeah. And I think that William, perhaps he had decided he'd had enough of the of the dark, psychotic heart of American urban life, anyway. But,
Naked Lunch is what he's best remembered for, as well as, in some sense, as we said in the introduction, a kind of chronicle of the Beat Generation.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think he was the Beat Generation. I mean, he, Kerouac, Ginsberg. It's interesting when you see, the death of Allen a few months ago and of William now, and you realize you realize the impact that these guys have had on culture over the last 30 or 40 years, from coming from a very sort of peripheral or fringe position. I mean, Naked Lunch was banned in America when it was first published here. It was published by Olympia Press in Paris, and when it was published here by Grove Press in '59, there were obscenity suits against it.
All right. Let me go to Bob Wilson, who's out on Long Island where he's at work. Robert Wilson, tell me about your friend and the man who you work with, I guess, 88, 89.
Well, I met William later in his life, and he was an old gentleman from the South. I guess in his later days he was getting back to his roots. He was very moralistic. He was immediately interested in the story of the Black Rider, which we produced together. I think he was interested because of the Devil's Bargain. And he compared the magic bullets, which one gets from the devil, with drugs. So he saw a part of his own life as the devil's bargain, too. When we first met, instead of a welcome drinks or whatever, this was in Kansas City, he took me to a friend's place, and I had to shoot guns at targets. And I guess then the ice was broken between us.
Shooting guns was a kind of bonding and icebreaker?
I think so.
Interesting about that, because it was that William Tell experience with his wife, Jean Vollmer,
Right.
that in a sense launched him into writing in a way, wasn't it?
Right. And that was also the story of the black writer, too.
Yeah.
And I guess at this point in his life, he wasn't writing so much anymore, but instead he was painting. So there was a kind of relationship between us.
Painting and calligraphy.
Yeah, because we were both concerned with painting and the visual arts.
He once said he stopped writing because he had nothing else to say. Did he say that?
Yeah.
Yeah.
But he had that wonderful voice, and so that if you didn't always understand the meaning of a text, it became absolutely clear when he would read. And I was recently listening to a tape that he sent me that we eventually put into the performance, and it went something like this: "That's the way the cookie crumbles. That's the way the bee mumbles. That's the way the needle pricks. That's the way the glue sticks. That's the way the potato mashes. That's the way the pan flashes. That's the way the market crashes. That's the way the whip lashes. That's the way the moon wanes."
What should his epitaph be?
Oh, I think that there was this wonderful American Midwestern irony that was full of life and always humor. He had everything.
Thank you, Robert.
Thank you.
Finally, is there anyone like him today?
Is there anyone like him today? I mean, I think the amazing thing is the impact that Burroughs is having on young kids. I've seen, just as his publisher, this response to these books in the last 5 or 10 years. I mean, we're selling more and more copies of them. People are coming to them. I remember reading a interview with Kurt Cobain in Rolling Stone, and they were talking about, well, what are you proudest, or what are you happiest about? And he said, oh, I guess I should be happy about the Platinum Records, but he says, the thing I'm happiest about is having been to Lawrence, Kansas, and met William Burroughs. So I thought, that's pretty cool. But, he's captured the zeitgeist of the time, and that's what a great writer does. And I think if you want to know what it was like to be in America in the 50s, 60s, and 70s, 100 years from now, you'll need to read William Burroughs.
Morgan Entrekin, thank you very much. You brought me this.
Yeah, it's a present, a
This
signed
is
copy.
Signed copy. This is amazing.
We were just
William
working,
Burroughs, July 14th, 1997.
We were just working with William doing the Portable Burroughs, which we're doing next year as a sort of compilation of his writing, and he sent back some copies of Naked Lunch signed to us.
Thank you again.
Yeah.
William Burroughs died, Lawrence, Kansas, 83 years old. Thank you for joining us this evening. We look forward to seeing you tomorrow night. See you then.